Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a story to cover, and not real thrilled to cover it because it kind of stinks. It's this gambling situation with the Alabama baseball team. And Alabama, look, let me pull up this screen. I'm wondering if Alabama's out of control. They've got three major scandals going on with their three major sports, and they've kind of mishandled some of it. Some of it they've handled, I guess, the best you can, but it really seems to be out of control. We're going to talk about that towards the end. I'm going to tell you why I think it's happening, and I'm pretty confident about it. But I'm not going to put a bunch of comedy in this video like I normally do. You know, I like to put a bunch of crap in my videos that are funny and sometimes nonsense. I'm not going to be doing that here because one of the scandals involves somebody losing their life, and that's never funny. I'm old enough to understand that's never funny. So we're going to discuss this a little bit, but I'm really starting to wonder if Alabama's got a control problem as far as, you know, the coaches may not know what to do because there's so much pressure to win, and we're going to talk about why their ability to control the players and all that is kind of switched on them. But anyway, you know, you start out with this baseball. We'll talk about baseball, basketball, and football very quickly. But let's talk about this baseball coach that's been fired. And the story goes that Brad Bohannon fired after linked to suspicious bets. It says Alabama baseball coach Brad Bohannon, he was fired over the Crimson Tide's game against LSU 6 days ago. Sportsbook surveillance video indicated that the person who placed the bets was communicating with Bohannon at the time. Multiple sources with direct information about the investigation told ESPN. It says the school announced that athletic director Greg Byrne, and I don't know how much control he's got anymore, initiated a termination process, among other things, violating standards, blah, 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 blah. Jason Jackson will serve as who cares. The alleged suspicious activity took place Friday at the sportsbook at the Great American Ballpark, according to the Ohio Casino Control Commission. And it said investigated centered around two bets on the Tigers. They were betting on the Tigers to win from the same unidentified customer. Multiple industry sources told ESPN. A source familiar with the investigation told Pete Thamel that there's no reason to believe any student athletes are involved. Alabama's scheduled starting pitcher, ace Luke Holman, was scratched before the LSU game because of back tightness and was replaced by sophomore Hagan Banks, who hadn't started since March 16th. LSU won the game 8-6. The OCCC was alerted to the alleged activity Friday by independent Las Vegas integrity firm that also works with them. And also Indiana gaming regulators also were alerted to the suspicious bets on the Alabama-LSU game, and they also suspended all wagers on the Crimson Tide. Said the NCAA takes sports wagering very seriously and is committed to the protection of student athletes. We'll work with our partners, etc. The association's monitoring the situation. Greg Sankey said there is a zero-tolerance policy on gambling. They're also monitoring it. Pennsylvania has also stopped all betting on Alabama baseball, joining Ohio, Indiana, and New Jersey. So, yeah, that stinks the high heavens. If he was in communication with the person that was betting and, you know, if they knew that pitcher was going to be scratched, that's pretty bad. So you've got that scandal. You've also got the basketball scandal, which is way worse. And look, they're going to treat this as if it's the end of the world because it's gambling. The basketball situation was tragic, very, very tragic. And the way it was handled was not – look, even Nick Saban gave the coach grief over that, Nate Oates, about how he came out there and said wrong place at the wrong time. It's like, That whole situation was just extremely unfortunate. And then Nick Saban had the problem with the football player, the recruit that was down in Florida and got caught with all kinds of illegal crap in his car, and it was just really bad. And you've had three scandals in all three major sports. And now I'm gonna tell you what I think's causing this. That, you know, it's not an excuse for Alabama. It's what I think these coaches are dealing with. There is an unbelievable amount of pressure to win. Okay, that's at every place you go, whether it's Georgia, and Georgia's had a bunch of problems, serious problems, again, with loss of life, where things have been a little bit out of control, maybe a lot out of control. And look, you know, I know it sounds like, oh, we're over here I'm throwing a stone with living in a glass house because of our NCAA problems. That's very different than somebody losing their life, and that's been happening, and it's not good. And I think what's happening is the transfer portal was set up to help kids who are sitting on the bench go to another school where they're going to get to play so they don't have to sit out a year and they don't wind up being professional bench warmers. So that was the whole point of the transfer portal. The NIL was set up so that some of these kids can get paid, while they're playing football and risking life and limb or whatever sport. Now, granted, football is the one where you really are at risk, but where they can be compensated. And that's helped a lot of people and a lot of families. Maybe they're the only adult that can actually go out and earn a significant living, but they're stuck playing a sport. Well, now they can make money and send money home, and all of a sudden people that may be struggling are not. So those are the two positives of the transfer portal and NIL. Unfortunately, there's a downside to it that everybody knows about, in that you've got now the power has switched from the coaches and the administration to the players. So players feel like, you know what, I can do whatever I want for the most part, because if the coaches get upset with me, I'll just transfer out and I'll get my money over here. I'll go to Miami or I'll go to USC because I'm a big time talent. And, if they're going to, try to control me and make me follow all these rules, I'll just leave. So the coaches are over here going, man, I don't have any power anymore, because if I push these guys out, I'm going to start losing. And I don't care what coach you are. You can be Nick Saban. If Nick Saban starts losing ball games, imagine if he had a losing record. Believe me, they'd be putting him out to pasture, or they'd be putting unbelievable pressure on him. And that can happen. Ask Philip Fulmer. He won a national championship, winning as coach for a decade. He had a losing season, gone. That's the way college football is. You're a king until you're not. So they're under a lot of pressure to win. And they've got to have the horses, the Jimmies and the Joes, to be able to do that. And a lot of these Jimmies and Joes are now in a position of strength, and they're going, we can kind of do what we want now. We got money. We can transfer out. The coaches can't push us around anymore. They can't control us. And that's not necessarily a good thing for an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to have a pocket full of cash and the ability to do whatever they want. It may sound good on paper, but in real life, 18, 19-year-olds are not the smartest people on the planet. Their brains are just starting to be fully developed, and you start pumping them up and thinking they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and bad things are going to happen, especially after midnight, which a lot of this stuff happened after midnight, especially with the basketball team. So when your parents tell you nothing good happens after midnight, they're 100% correct on that. So anyway, I'm not sure what Alabama can do. I really don't know, but they need to do something, because it really looks bad, and a lot of bad things have happened. And, somebody's got to, it's going to have to be Nick Saban. Look, it's not going to be an athletic director or the president of Alabama. It's not going to happen. It'll be Nick Saban. He's going to have to probably do something. And, it's not easy to do if you lower the hammer down, all of a sudden players leave. There you go. So I think that's what's causing this. Now, you may completely disagree, and you may say, hey, they need to put the hammer down and do all this. You got to win, too. You got to win. Kirby Smart's dealing with the exact same thing over there at Georgia. They've had some terrible mishaps happen over there, and there's only so much he can do if he wants to win. So anyway, I did want to cover this. And again, sorry I couldn't have any comedy in this, but like I said, this is there's some things in this that are just too serious. So anyway, my next video will be funny. Don't worry. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. If you don't, that's okay. And right over here's my subscribe button. Just pop that little thing if you don't care. If you don't want to, that's okay too. This has been kind of a weird video for me. And my most recent video is right here. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.